Private Lender Podcast, episode 107.
The Private Lender Podcast quote of the day comes to us from Pablo Picasso, who said, "I'd like to live as a poor man with lots of money."
This is the Private Lender Podcast, the show that shares practical advice and know-how for new and seasoned lenders, from private mortgages on single-family houses to joint ventures on commercial projects and beyond. Discover details about investment vehicles that you won't find at your local bank or online broker. Listen and learn from private lenders and real estate investors, as well as from professionals and entrepreneurs, as they share the details, strategies, and the insight that allows for successful and prosperous lending. Now, get ready to increase your ROI. Here's your host, Keith Baker.
Hello and greetings from the energy capital of the world, Houston, Texas, and welcome to episode 107 of the Private Lender Podcast. I'm your host, Keith Baker, very nasally Keith Baker today, fighting off a sinus infection. Yay, summer. And I'd like to thank you for sharing your time with me today. Private Lender Podcast is the only podcast teaching regular folks just like you and me how to become private lenders, become passive real estate investors, and how to keep our money safe investing in private mortgages to other real estate investors. So if you're looking for practical tips and advice on being a successful private lender or how to successfully build wealth without banks or Wall Street, then you're in the right place. But if you want to learn from my mistakes so you can avoid them and you can also shorten your learning curve, then pull up a chair and pour yourself a drink, because I'm going to tell you all about mine and I like to get people to talk about theirs. So today is a solo cast. It is the first episode I'm releasing in July of 2020, and just to bring everybody up to speed, I've been gone a month. Didn't really have any episodes to come out and explain anything, just because I figured there was enough crap going on in the world that you don't need me babbling in your one trip to the grocery store or whatever, if you listen, or if on the toilet, wherever you prefer to listen to this podcast. But nonetheless, just some sad news. My dad passed recently, and so that's kind of got me down, to say the least. But still motoring through. Still got 2 kids, mortgage, and all that fun stuff. But just really took my drive out of me. Haven't been really working the day job that much, and been spending a lot of time with the family. So that has been nice. In this odd and strange time that we find ourselves in. So. But I recently, I'm going through episode ideas, and I figured, you know what, the hell with it. Episode 107 is just going to be a rant, so to speak, a release of some steam, maybe is a better way to look at it. Because I was, Saturday morning, I got up, and it was nice and quiet. Kids were asleep. I got my coffee and started reading the paper, the book I'm reading right now. And I was flipping through the channels, which, there's no baseball, no basketball. Basketball would be over anyway. But, my normal summer July routine would be getting ready for another disappointing season of Dallas Cowboys football. But I don't have that now. So I was flipping through the business channels. So like CNBC, Fox Business, Bloomberg. Yeah. Those are the 3 that I get, I think. Anyway, settled up on this one show, and they had 2 doctors interviewed, like the first 2 segments. The first doctor was a surgeon from, I want to say Atlanta, who was making the case that masks do not help. That it's kind of seems to say that there's really no evidence out there, any data to support the use of masks. And also some of the limitations that are going on. And then they went to commercial, and they brought another doctor out. This one was somehow affiliated with Harvard, I believe, somehow, some way. And he was saying, no, absolutely, that the data shows that the masks do work. So that's when I put my hands up in the air and I said, all right, enough of this. My father's passing was not COVID related, fortunately. But the thing that really just has been under my skin for the last few weeks that I haven't been able to verbalize to anybody, so I'm going to take it out on you guys, is that we weren't allowed to be with them in the hospital. My mom had to call 911. This is before anyway. So my dad told my mom, look, he needed help. Dad had heart failure complicated by Parkinson's. Just to give you a little background there, and in a touch of dementia, that was kind of funny at the end. So, but I laughed, but I only laughed to avoid crying. So anyway, but Dad, they called the ambulance. Paramedics came out and said, look, if you don't have COVID, the hospital's a good place get it. So my parents decided, okay, Dad would stay home. They got his blood pressure back down. Everything was cool. He was getting better. So, okay, fine. He stays home. But then a few days later, he slides and goes to the hospital, and my mom can't even be with him. And it's pretty obvious that he's terminal. His organs were shutting down and everything, but we couldn't be with him. So when the doctor recommended hospice, we were my mom, my sister, and I said, "Nope, we're going to do it. We're going to do it here at home." And so we were fortunate that 14 hours after he came home from the hospital, Dad passed with his family around him peacefully. So, not to bring you guys down, but that's where I've been, and I'm just now kind of talking about it. So, if your parents are alive, call them, tell them that you love them right now, and thank you for putting up with all your bullshit. That's my advice to you. But I also wanted to, obviously this episode is in honor and dedicated to my father. I'm not doing it Facebook Live because, quite frankly, I don't know if I'm going to make it all the way through. So I am recording it to hopefully put out on the internet someday, soon. But we'll see if I can get through this. Huh? But when the funeral came time for the funeral, we had to adjust to the coronavirus, the COVID universe, right? So, needless to say, we were everything was restricted, and my dad. Of course, now we always sing the praises of the dead, right? But my dad was, he believed in serving, and had a servant's heart, and he knew a lot of people and a lot of organizations, and this is on me. I mean, this is me being butthurt that my dad didn't have the funeral that I thought he deserved, right? Due to the times, and it rankles with me, but I understand. But since he didn't have his official goodbye, I just want to read off some of the things that my father accomplished. He was a former JC and a devoted Rotarian. He taught Sunday school for several years, and for more than 40 years, he ushered at First United Methodist Church in Sugar Land. And in his 81 years, he donated more than 65 gallons of blood. So our family, my family has always been covered. If we were any accidents, my dad had donated enough that we wouldn't have to pay for we'd have blood. I don't know if we don't have to pay for it, but it would be there for us. So anyhow, miss you, Dad. I love you. And because of you, I am a private lender, and you and Mom. But anyhow, where I'm going with all this is the poor me is, so I have a very good friend of mine. One of my best friends is a Baptist minister. In fact, he performed my wedding ceremony for me. And when all this was breaking out, in May, he was called to do a funeral service, and at the last minute, like literally at 5 minutes before starting, the funeral home said that the state, the authorities or whatever had shut it down, and there could only be 10 people at the funeral, the visitation and the funeral. And 2 of them had to be obviously employees of the funeral home that left. The preacher man, the pastor, that's only 7 family members, and so relayed the information, and then the lady was like, "Well, I'm not going to choose who can come to the funeral or not. Basically, who can stay. It's it's family." So the good reverend said to the funeral home, "I understand, that's fine, but you're going to tell that family out there. I'm not, and I don't blame them." But the really sad part is, about a week to 10 days later, Gary Floyd had his funeral in Houston. And before, I'm not getting political or anything, look, just hear me out, okay? But there were 6,300 people that attended that funeral. And like J.J. Watt, I mean, he's Houston royalty. Jamie Foxx, Channing Tatum, DJ Reader. And it's a funny thing, this is stay with me. And there were a lot of local politicians, right? The district attorney was there. Sheila had to be there. I didn't confirm it or not, but I'm just assuming that she would be there. And a lot of other dignitaries and politicians from the local area were there. And even our governor, Greg Abbott from Texas, was there. And everyone knows there's a big visitation. And they even they went to the church, and the people lined up. And they took them for the visitation. They had to do it out in a field, so they were bussing people. These 6,300 people that came by to pay their respects. They were bussing them, and so obviously, my father's funeral does not compare to Gary Floyd's funeral. However, on the basis of the authorities, this is where it gets political and bipartisan political. So, but the Reverend, he understood, but what reasoning do you have of limiting everybody else's? And now we have unfortunately a celebrity murder on TV, and who is due a funeral. Don't get me wrong, do a just goodbye. Let me just put it that way. And so he called the governor's office. Now, the governor's Republican, and then there was a lot of Democratic politicians, right? So this is the politicians that were there, local politicians there, and some Republicans as well. But I mean, just the ones that kind of hit the paper, the one the papers highlighted on there were celebrity, and then some local politicians. But the governor is Republican Party. Anyway, so the good Reverend called the Governor Abbott's office and asked, as a man of the cloth, gave his church and his name and everything, and said, a week ago I was told this, and now we're doing the Gary Floyd thing. Does that mean are we going to go back? Are we going to loosen up the restrictions basically? And the answer was no. That they were not going to loosen up the restrictions. And so, knowing the obvious, the good Reverend asked, well, what makes a difference? Why is it different? And I don't know which is worse, that what they gave, the answer they gave, or if they would have told the truth. The answer that had they told the truth, they say, look at this. If they were just answered honestly and said, look at the press, look at look what's happened here. There's protests, and I mean this is a huge thing, right? But it would have been, for me, it would have been better for them to say, you know what? Yeah, it is different. There are the us and them, right? There's everybody else, and then there's the exceptions. Okay, let's put it that way. That I could accept. I could accept, right? However, the answer they gave for why they allowed over 6,000 people who weren't socially distanced. Some had masks, some didn't, et cetera, et cetera. How could they allow it? And instead of saying the truth, that is the exception, they honestly said, the governor's office, Greg Abbott's office, told a preacher, whom I know, and if you want to fact check me, info@privatelenderpodcast.com, I'll send you the information. Anyway, I'm getting to the point. The point is they said that the Floyd family was very, very large. Yeah. And good Reverend said, look, I've, known a lot of families in my day. I've handled a lot of, services for funerals. I've never known a family to have over 6,000 members. And the response was that the family had so many close friends that they had to treat them like family. And that's when I said, okay. That's when it started brewing and brewing and brewing in my head. Like, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem that Gary Floyd had a big funeral. I don't have an issue with it at all. And unfortunately, it had to be done. But to kick out the bullshit, the utter bullshit answers that were given to basically allay or to relay the fact that there is everyone else, and then there's the few. And okay, let's be honest about that. But the people, meaning the politicians, the people that we've elected, hold on, I got to pause. These are the same people that are shutting us down, moving the goalposts on things, using data and tests and models that were grossly inaccurate. But they're the ones that are shutting down the businesses. They're the ones that are, I can't tell you how many restaurants I've seen sheltered, just shuttered in. They're not mowing the grass anymore. They're done. A lot of local businesses, same thing a lot of local shops are getting hit. So I want to make this real clear, the message in this, all of this. I want to make this real clear as well, because I'm getting a little, wait, you have a problem with the Gary Floyd film? No, I don't. I have a problem with our lack of leadership in this country. So, and that falls on our shoulders, mine too. So let me get something real clear. If you believe that the problems of this country lies on the shoulders of only one political party or the other, then I have to say you are part of the problem. You are the problem. Everybody plays for the same green team. They just give us the illusion that our political system is bifurcated. Okay? And bifurcated into the conservative and the Democrat, the Republican and the Democrat, liberal, blah, blah. So if you fall in that, I believe you need to pull your head out of your ass, look around a little bit and breathe in some fresh air. Because these are the same. These politicians can't even be honest with us. And this isn't I'm not going anti-Republican, I'm not going anti-Democrat here. Okay, this is down the middle of the aisle. Scum, that's what I think. That's what I think. That's what my belief is right now. That's where my emotionality has taken me. So anyway, I was, maybe I was an idiot, but I was raised that when civil servants, public servants served those who paid them. And I really don't see a lot of that going on. In fact, if you want, go to the show notes page and you can look at how just getting elected into Congress sets you up for like pretty much life. You look at the average amount of Social Security you're across the board American makes and what a 1 or 2 term Congress person makes. It's almost double. Yeah, just off of that job working in the Senate or in Congress. That's it. And when the average American had to pay all through their working years. All right. And I use the federal government example because it's all. I think it's something. Hopefully, it's all some. We can all relate to and understand. And I'm not going to get into the benefits of Congress people right now and how they're paid and whatnot. But I think it's time, man. It's time to do something. I was really personally. I was happy to see people protesting after the Mr. Floyd's death. That's what this country's about, is being able to do that. Now obviously the riots and the people that are out there seemingly just doing the harm. It's not about them, but the protesting. I mean, when I was in college, I thought, man, it was in the 90s. We're so lame because I heard about the 60s with protests and everything. I really look forward to that, and now it's past my time. But anyhow, like I'm kind of rambling on. So all right, Keith, this is great. You've made your point. Blah blah blah. Boo-hoo. So what do you want? What do you want from me? All right. One's looking east, one's looking west, and this one's saying, "What do you want from me?" So I'm going to ask you to start at the local level, and I don't know what that looks like for you. So I'm going to have to ask you to get up your butt, get off your buttocks, and get involved. I don't know what that means, but on some level, get involved locally. Vote. Let's start with that. Just vote. Learn. And don't go straight ticket. Learn each specific race and who's in it and what their platforms are. I don't care if you vote straight ticket, but just select individually. Look at it. Put some thought into it. And start pushing for term limits. I think that would help out a lot. Let's start changing the culture of our we call it our leader class, right? Our ruling class, when they should be the serving class. I think they forget. No, they don't forget. They just know where they're getting paid. I mean, let's just be honest. Okay. Another thing I want you to remember is individual freedoms are being taken away in the name of security. I want you to help us spread personal accountability. Tell others that when you point a finger at someone, there are 3 pointing back at you, right? And it starts with accountability to yourself and integrity to yourself, and then you can give it to the world. Then you can give the love to the world and change things in the system. I know this is some pie-in-the-sky shit, but it starts there, all right? The other thing I want you to do is immediately get 6 months of expenses put in the bank, liquid, right? When I say put in the bank, you put it in your safe. Just have 6 months of expenses liquid, because I don't I mean, you just need to be prepared, right? And the last thing, start considering converting all your retirement assets over to Roth vehicles. I highly, highly recommend you do that. I still try to do. I do it every year. Start paying some. What can I afford? What can I afford to pay? But that's only one thing. But then you got to go put that money to work, and make it multiply for you. So anyhow, again, if you want to fact check anything, I'm happy to connect you with the good Reverend that I mentioned. I just got on the mic, so I haven't even asked him if I can speak about this or not. But I'm more than happy to send you to, if nothing else, I can give you the church information where he's at, and you can figure it out from there. So, yeah, man, we're rocking and rolling. 20 minutes in, still nasally. Maybe one day I'll move to Arizona where everyone else is living now and suffer from the same allergy problems. Anyway, look, guys, that's going to do it for episode number 107. I want to thank you for your time today and also your ear. This has been like therapy for me. So if you made it this far, I'm sorry, but thank you. If you want more information, please go to the show notes page. I'll have some links up so you can look at what the federal government pay and compensation looks like compared to the average American. And now it's time to remind you, I don't charge money for this show, but I do please ask that you help me get the word out and increase awareness by leaving an honest rating review over at iTunes, Google Podcasts, or whatever platform you use to hear my voice right now. That is the best way you can help contribute to the show, and I would be so grateful if you would do that for me. In addition to helping other people find the show, if you're trying to get your own private lenders, send them over here. We can train them up, get them going to where you just make a phone call. That's what I like. I still do my due diligence, but I agree to loan initially on phone calls. So if you're trying to build you a stable of private lenders, give them this as a free resource for them. And anyway. Please help share and build the private lender nation. So, all right, that's enough hemming and hawing and pandering for today. I hope everyone out there, if you're hearing my voice, and even if you're not, I hope you are staying healthy and doing well, physically and mentally. And I just wanted to tell y'all, I wish you a safe and prosperous private lending. I'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Private Lender Podcast with your host, Keith Baker. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit privatelenderpodcast.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time.